We are starting with the audio test. This is Nothing Phone 3 versus Poco F7, flagship versus flagship killer. Why are we comparing these two phones? Because of the processor, Snapdragon 8S Gen 4. So, are you saving a lot of money on Poco F7? Or Nothing Phone 3 is a better option? Of course, the price will also be a factor in this camera comparison video. 1080p on the selfie for Poco F7 and 4K 30 FPS, even 60 FPS on Nothing Phone 3. So you get what you paid for on the selfie camera. I think that's it for our quick audio test. Let the battle begin.
Late night feels like I'm all alone.
On the widest field of view, which is 1x, you got a wider field of view on Nothing Phone 3, but in terms of white balance and beautification, they look almost the same. But on the other shots, you would notice that Poco F7 is brighter, the skin tone is brighter, and the bokeh balls are stronger compared to the Nothing Phone. But I feel like Nothing Phone has better skin color, closer in reality.
About nothing at all, got me at every word.
On 2x, you will notice again Nothing Phone 3 is wider compared to Poco F7, but here you will see that the image are brighter overall compared to Poco F7. Also, the white balance is warmer. Inspecting the details on the face, you got really good facial details on Poco F7. I think both phones are doing really good on edge detection, but Nothing Phone 3 is better in this category, looking at the individual hair strands. And on portrait zoom, we got 4x on Nothing Phone 3 or equivalent to 100mm. Poco F7 only has 1x and 2x, so this is a win for Nothing Phone 3. If we nail that perfect focus, you would see a lot of details or the face or subject for Nothing Phone 3.
Lights up the other line, swapping stories and stupid jokes. Nothing important, but feels like
In terms of focal lengths, we got 2 on Poco F7 and 4 on Nothing Phone 3, so we have more options.
you stay around.
Selfie shooter, we got a beautified, brighter look on Poco F7, while we have a more contrasty and more detailed look on Nothing Phone 3. I think I would go with Nothing Phone on this one.
You can't call me tonight, don't make no reason, it's not urgent.
Alright, so after the portrait mode, we're shooting vlogging on these two phones. So people will use this for vlogging, and this is what you would look like on both phones. We got 4K 60 FPS on Nothing Phone 3 and 1080p 30 FPS or Full HD on Poco F7. So again, you paid what you paid for Poco F7. But again, for Snapdragon 8S Gen 4, it can record 4K 60 FPS. Whatever Nothing Phone 3 can offer, I think Poco F7 can also offer. But again, Xiaomi will not give you everything for the price of a Poco F7. This is a gaming phone, not really known for cameras. But in terms of video quality, it's really good on the selfie. You got more details on the 4K video recording of Nothing Phone 3 and also the colors, the contrast. But you got a brighter and warmer Poco F7. That's the difference on the vlogging. I think that's it for the selfie video recording. Now let's check the rear cameras. So vlogging both phones using the rear cameras. Main sensor, later we will do the ultra wide and even the zoom. But for vlogging, I think this is the best sensors on the rear camera. So we have 50 megapixel each for both phones, 1/1.95 inch sensor on Poco F7 and 1/1/3 inch sensor on Nothing Phone 3. So you got a larger sensor on Nothing Phone. So I feel like in terms of video recording, it will get more light and suitable for low light video recording as well. Later we will test that on a low light video test. I think that's it for the vlogging test. Which phone do you think is better? By the way, you have a red blinking light on Nothing Phone 3. So right now I know that I'm recording using this phone. Poco F7 doesn't have this feature, so really good for Nothing Phone 3. I think that's it for our vlogging test. Now let's check the daylight images.
On daylight image, starting with the ultra wide, you got good HDR look on Poco F7. Seemingly there's no shadows on this photo, but you have a natural looking image on Nothing Phone 3 with shadows on it. Checking the white balance, we got a warmer Nothing Phone 3. Also, the contrast is stronger on the new Nothing flagship.
Do what you do. All of this looks like gold.
On the main sensor test, again, same tendency as the ultra-wide. We got a more vivid and saturated look on Nothing Phone 3, while we got a brighter and better exposed image on Poco F7. Also, in terms of white balance, we have a cooler tone on Poco F7 and warmer on Nothing Phone 3. I think there's just more details on Poco phone compared to the competition.
Are you seeing clear? Are you seeing clear? Pop, pop. All the colors here.
On 3x, we don't have a telephoto for Poco F7, so this is a win for Nothing Phone 3. You got really good details and colors on that 50 megapixel sensor. Nothing Phone 3 has 50 megapixel across all the rear cameras and even the selfie, so you'll get the same looking shots. On zoom, you got 60x digital on Nothing Phone 3 and only 10x on Poco F7. But if we crop in, you would see that you got a sharper Poco F7. So I think we just need to crop in on the image instead of using the camera zoom for Phone 3.
Make you look twice, make you look twice.
And checking the close-up, we got macro capability on Nothing Phone 3.
What a touch, what a touch, what a touch turns to gold.
Now testing the video quality outdoors. So this is selfie video recording 4K 60 FPS on Nothing Phone 3 and 1080p 30 or rather 60 FPS on Poco F7. Look at the details. I like the details on Nothing Phone 3. Obviously you have 4K compared to 1080p or full HD. Let's check the autofocus. And how about the colors? I like the colors on Nothing Phone 3. Look at the colors here. It's not blending. You got yellows and greens while it's all green on Poco F7. It's also more vivid on the flagship killer Poco phone. Let's check the video stabilization. Alright, let's switch to the rear cameras. Now this is the rear camera test starting with the ultra wide 1080p 30 FPS on Poco F7 and you got 4K 60 FPS on Nothing Phone 3. Again, you get what you paid for. Poco phone is a gaming phone, but it has really good camera features as well and performance. Look at the quality. I like the details and the colors on Poco F7 or rather Nothing Phone 3 compared to Poco F7. Let's check the autofocus. You also have a warmer white balance on Nothing Phone 3. How about vlogging? Which phone is better on vlogging on the ultra wide? I bet Nothing Phone 3 because of the 4K 60 FPS. And let's check the video stabilization. Let's switch to the main sensor. I have to stop the recording and refire the cameras because I'm switching to the main sensor on Poco F7. You cannot switch between 1080p and 4K for Poco phone. So this is now a proper 4K battle. This is 60 FPS on Nothing Phone 3 versus 30 FPS on Poco F7. If you look on the shadows, I think better exposed on Nothing Phone 3. Look at the colors. Warmer looking Nothing Phone 3 compared to Poco F7. Let's check the autofocus. Also brighter on Poco F7 compared to Nothing Phone. Let's check the vlogging test. So this is outdoors. Nothing Phone 3 versus Poco F7. Can you see the difference between the 30 and the 60 FPS? Let's check the video stabilization. Now we're switching to the 3x. I also have to stop the recording because I'm switching from the main sensor to 3x on Nothing Phone 3. So a bit of gymnastics on both phones in terms of the focal length. We can also do digital crop on Poco F7 3x. Obviously you have a better 50 megapixel sensor, 3 times optical zoom on Nothing Phone 3 compared to Poco F7. And going for the farthest zoom, we got 18x on Nothing Phone 3 and 6x on Poco F7. I think in terms of the telephoto, you got better telephoto and zoom on Nothing Phone 3.
On our night mode test using the ultra wide right off the bat, you will notice you got a better night shot capability on Nothing Phone 3. This is a 50 megapixel versus 8 megapixel sensor, so you got more details and brighter image on Nothing Phone 3. On pitch black condition, you would see a little bit more on Nothing Phone 3.
People stopping. We the whole party, yeah, we popping.
On the main sensor test, although we got a natural looking image on Poco F7, but Nothing Phone 3 has better exposure, looking at the grass, the buildings, and the cars.
Who wanna lose it? Who wanna lose it? 3, 2, 1. on, don't wanna lose your eyes.
Now on pitch black condition, you would also see brighter image on Nothing Phone 3.
3, 2.
On 3x optical for Nothing Phone 3, you got really good details compared to the digital crop of Poco F7. Also, the colors are better compared to the competition. And on pitch black condition, the 3x optical of Nothing Phone 3 is not that good like the ultra wide.
So overthink it, get this within.
Now we reached the night shot test on both phones, Nothing Phone 3 versus Poco F7. So you got 1080p 30 FPS on Poco F7 versus 4K on Nothing Phone 3. You get what you paid for. It's half the price as Nothing Phone 3. So the selfie video recording is a little bit inferior compared to Nothing Phone. In terms of video performance, you got a noisier Poco F7 compared to a more detailed Nothing Phone 3. Warmer also on Poco F7. You got a 20 megapixel sensor on Poco F7 versus 50 megapixel sensor on Nothing Phone 3. I think that's it for the selfie video recording. Now let's check the rear cameras. Alright, now we're checking the ultra wide on both phones. So we got 4K 30 FPS on Nothing Phone 3 and Poco F7. In terms of the megapixel war, we have 8 megapixel sensor on Poco F7 compared to 50 megapixel sensor on Nothing Phone 3. I pre-checked the video quality on both phones, so this is where you get that extra dollars on Nothing Phone 3. You got better video quality on the ultra wide. It is soft and there's not much details on Poco F7 in terms of the ultra wide video recording. Now let's check the main sensor. Alright, main sensor test on both phones. So why are we comparing Poco F7 versus Nothing Phone 3? Because of the processor, Snapdragon 8s Gen 4. I think the biggest difference here as well is the price. You can get 2 Poco F7 on a single Nothing Phone 3. In terms of design, I think I like the design better on Nothing Phone 3. It's growing on me. You have a red blinking light at the back of the phone when you're doing video recording that indicates you're recording video compared to a really good and stylish looking Poco F7. It's like a gaming phone. In terms of the specs, we got 50 megapixel sensor on both phones, 1/1.95 inch sensor on Poco F7 and 1/3 inch sensor on Nothing Phone 3. So again, bigger sensor on Nothing Phone 3. I didn't pre-check the video quality on both phones, but I think Nothing Phone 3 might be better than Poco F7 because of the larger sensor. I think that's it for the main sensor test. Now let's check the zoom. And lastly, we're checking the zoom capabilities of both phones. So I think in terms of video recording on low light, I would take Nothing Phone 3. This is where the extra dollars is coming from. I think that's it for the low light video test. Now let's check the video resolution. Now this is the video resolution test starting with Poco F7. This is 4K 60 FPS. And this is 4K 60 FPS on Nothing Phone 3. Using the selfie camera, I'm flexing the selfie. You can also shoot 60 FPS on the ultra wide main sensor and 3 times optical zoom, so you can shoot 60 FPS on all the sensors. 50 megapixel sensor. I think in terms of camera performance, I would go with Nothing Phone 3. Obviously this phone is more expensive than Poco F7. This is a gaming phone. If you're a gamer and mainly the use of the phone will be for games, then Poco F7 is a better choice. But if you will consider camera performance and design, then probably switch to Nothing Phone 3. I think that's it for a camera comparison video between these two phones. Which phone do you think is better? Leave your comment down below, and as always, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.